Episode opens in a library in Tallinn, Estonia, where Zena Jansson meets the Jackel. He tells her that MI6 agent Bianca Pullman and MI6 agent Vince Pine arrived at the British embassy last night. He asks if her people can deal with them. Surprised he asked her for help, she agrees to do it. She says UDC is scheduled to arrive on Friday. He refuses to share his plan with her and demands payment immediately after the job is complete. At the British embassy, Vince and Bianca join Operation Anubis. Osita Halcrow tells them that their liaison, Oscar Ilves, is searching all hotels. Cole creates a composite sketch of the Jackel. Bianca is sure it is him, but not Vince. Keith Canvey warns UDC against going to Tallinn because the MI6 lost track of the assassin in Hungary. UDG says Rivers' enemies win if he chooses to remain in isolation. Teddy reminds them that the guests have signed NDAs and have no idea where they are going. He fears what canceling the event would do to UDC's reputation. Keith assures him that anything would be better than being dead. In Tallinn, the Jackel tells Rasmus that he has the blueprints for the Konsterdasal. They sensually complement each other. Marisa and Alvaro are concerned about Nuria. Back in Tallinn, Rasmus offers to take the Jackel to Konsterdasal after it closes. He claims the venue will be closed off to the public and only specific people will be allowed in. They will go this afternoon. In Cadiz, Alvaro asks Nuria for 40 grand for a business acquisition with his friend Antonia. Marisa says the acquisition would change his life. From Tallinn, the Jackel watches a live feed of Alvaro removing money and a gun from a secure room inside his house. Alvaro stuffs extra bundles of cash into his waistband while Nuria isn't looking. In Tallinn, Rasmus and the Jackel are at the Konsterdasal. Rasmus gives him his passkey. The Jackel looks around and returns the passkey before leaving. At the British embassy, Osita tells Bianca and Vince that Keith is keeping quiet about UDC visiting Tallinn. Oscar calls to inform them that Officer Cover identified the facial composite as Peter Gibson, who was in Airbnb last night. Bianca and Vince come under fire outside the embassy. At least one assailant escapes. Osita arrives at the scene and urges Bianca to come back inside, but she insists on going to the Airbnb. Oscar and an armed tactical team break down the door to find it empty. Rasmus and the Jackel say their goodbyes. In New York, Timothy Winthrop and Doug Wojak discuss Russians and Lester Coughlin's interview. In Tallinn, Cover claims to have seen a man resembling the facial composite at the Airbnb. Outside Konsterdasal, the Jackel is asked to stop at a security checkpoint. He says it is probably his boot and opens his bag. The guard permits him to pass. Back at the Airbnb, Cover says the gentleman had Peter Gibson's passport in his possession. He utilized a credit card to pay for the rental. At Konsterdasal, the Jackel purchases snacks and water with cash before taking his seat. When the concert pianist stops playing, the Jackel makes his way to the upper floor and crawls to a ventilation vent directly above the pianist. He removes a gun from his boot and installs a silencer on it. The concert ends and the lights are turned off. The Jackel dreams of warfare and death. He remembers the first time he met Nuria. At the British embassy, Osita tells Vince and Bianca that the assailants are Russian. She insists someone is trying to kill her. He says Peter Gibson's credit card hasn't been used since the Airbnb rental in Tallinn. At Konsterdasal, the Jackel is still inside the ventilation vent when he hears footsteps above. Keith watches as Rasmus steps into the security body scanner. Bianca and Vince approach and give him a facial composite of the assassin. Keith asks about the accuracy. She says it was a police officer who came face to face with the assassin. She shows him the Jackel wearing a disguise. Keith explains his plan to vacant the building by 6 p.m. and only he will oversee admittance for the UDC event. The upper balcony will be reserved for armed guards. From the ventilation vent, the Jackel sees Bianca give Keith something belonging to him. Security dogs sniff around the theater. No DNA is detected on the Jackel's item. The Jackel keeps his mind busy by thinking of Nuria. The next day, invited guests file into the Konsterdasal. Vince and Bianca are checked through security. Keith sends Chris to do a once-over of the building. Lenora Boggs arrives by helicopter. The Jackel sees Bianca through the vent. Rima Buttons and her entourage arrive at the venue. Keith alerts Vince and Bianca that UDC will arrive in 10 minutes. From the ventilation vent, The Jackal watches as guests file into the auditorium. In the green room, Keith urges UDC to stay near the bulletproof glass. A short time later, UDC and Teddy kiss before he enters the elevator. Rima is introduced as she walks onto the stage. On the upper floor, the Jackal emerges from the ventilation vent. Paul Pullman, Jasmine Pullman, and Adam watch the event on TV. On the upper floor, Jackel kills a security guard. Coughlin, Xena, and Winthrop watch Rima's speech on TV. In the baton, the Jackal watches as UDC walks onto the stage. UDC speaks to his guests from behind the bulletproof glass. The Jackal keeps his gun aimed at UDC. Chris fires a shot at UDC. The Jackal fires a shot. Armed guards surround UDC and escort him off the stage. Chris is shot. Bianca and Vince realize there were two shooters. Paul sees Bianca on TV and turns off the TV. Doug questions if UDC is dead. The Jackal does manage to get away though, but Rasmus sees him leave and unfortunately, he's forced to choke him out and kill the guy.